Welcome to our weekly news roundup, and it's all about things to do with AI. So today we'll dive into the top stories that have made waves around the AI world over the last week, and we'll go through the top 10 articles that I feel having the greatest impact this week. So we'll start with the shocking news that deepfake attacks have soared by 2,000%. Now, this is mainly AI fraud and fraud in the financial against financial organizations. Now, what this means is that there's a lot of focus on trying to resolve this AI fraud related issue. Key problems are that the skills and the techniques that are required to resolve these problems are not as available as a lot of the security like. So by raising this article, they're flagging the issue that in many ways that they are fighting some sort of losing battle, and they need to get the technology up to scratch. They need to get people trained up and ready to head off the attacks. But the main thing is the expectation is that there'll be a lot more AI fraud, and there'll be a lot more deep fakes. And if you think about it, it's only gone up by 6.5% of total fraud attempts. But they're saying that represents a 2,000% increase over the last 3 years. The report was generated by a digital identity company and a consultancy, so that might have biased the report in itself, but it's still flagging something that's continuing to grow. The next piece of news is that Elon Musk's xAI raised $6 billion. And his aim is to challenge OpenAI. And the main focus of the money that's been raised would be to build the data center, a gigafactory that would have a lot of NVIDIA GPUs for the training of his AI model. And his AI business is really about seeking truth, and he wants to challenge OpenAI. So it's quite a hefty valuation on the company, but he's raised that money now and he's off to the races. Incidentally, by him raising that money, his AI, that amount of money led to NVIDIA stock rising because all of a sudden they're guaranteed even more business. So the key thing is that there's now a bit more competition, and with xAI in the mix, it helps the overall ecosystem, and nobody knows where this is going to end up. But it's a wonderful thing that we have another player in the market that's guaranteed funding. And they're going to be using H100 chips from NVIDIA, and I think each one costs about $30,000 to $40,000, and they need tons and tons and hundreds of them, about 100,000. So that's a huge amount of money coming in NVIDIA's way. The next article is with Meta or Facebook. So Facebook over the last few years has been said that they're losing market share, the market share of the young adults and the next generation of social media users, because they're all going on to TikTok. However, we have this article that's saying that young adults are flocking back to Meta, and it's all owed to changes that Meta made in their AI algorithms and some of the changes they've made to the platform. So changes like the rules surrounding how people get paid and what they get paid, and the threshold at which people would get paid as well for their content on Facebook. And then they've made it easier for people to sell. So to sell on the platform and to make money, and they feel that that's what's attracting the next generation onto the platform. So over 40 million young adults have gone back onto the system over the last 3 years. So that's a huge number of people. It will make a change in the perceived loss of interest from the next generation and in their platform. But that's some good news for Facebook, and good news for people who are marketers in the real estate industry or in any business, because then you're not spreading yourself thin wondering if you should carry on advertising on Facebook or trying to use Facebook to attract business. If these young adults are going back onto that platform, then you could more focus the resources you have for marketing and advertising and whatever else you need to do on the platform. The next bit of news is Anthropic's Claude. So Anthropic has updated their offering to include the ability to create your own AI tools. And the idea is that with businesses now moving down the whole AI agent solution arena, Anthropic is making it a lot easier for you to create your tools within your AI ecosystem as a business. So what that translates to is that as your company moves to the AI agent world, you can then just automatically embed the Anthropic solutions for your AI agent. Of course, it's not just it's not simple. Some of the challenges around using AI agents include how do you inform the AI solution that the tool that you've created is a tool that it should be using to solve any one of your problems. Then there's the interface between your chatbot or between your model and the tool. So that interface where the model or the chatbot knows which one of your AI tools it should be using. So there'll be descriptions that you need to provide. There'll be a certain level of understanding that your model has to have in order to select the correct tool for the task that it needs to complete. So those are things that still need to be ironed out and challenges. But the main thing is that Anthropic is making it a lot simpler to create those tools using their platform. So last week I mentioned the issues with Google's overview. So when some people did searches on the Google platform, and Google's search engine released a new product, a search product called AI Overviews. And the whole idea was that their AI solution would create a much better search result when you search for certain text, or as you normally do your searches. The problem was that a lot of the results turned out to give unhelpful information and incorrect information, and in some cases quite lethal information, potentially deadly. Now Google AI has come back and said that some of those screenshots that were shared online last week were actually incorrect and fake, and that their model didn't generate a lot of the screens or a lot of the text that were purported to have been generated by them. So that's good news. However, they did admit that there were still some errors and there are things they are working on. So they're training their AI to make sure that it better understands when the source of any of his results is coming from a website that's known to troll. They're trying to train it to understand sarcasm a lot better, and they're trying to make it a much better experience. So they've learned their lessons, and some reports suggest that they've completely turned off AI overviews for now until they're able to resolve these issues. So hopefully that addresses the main thing. I think one of the key things that's actually instructive from their report is that they're saying that that some of the results came from sources that only responded to the particular kind of question I was asked. So as an example, asking it how many rocks shall I eat per day, it went off and found a website that spoke about that particular thing and presented that as a result. So their aim is to weigh results to make sure that perhaps it's not just one website that provides a certain kind of response, that perhaps it will look at other sources to weigh the kind of results that it's getting. But it's quite interesting to see that perhaps one website was enough to surface as a response to a question. So the next piece of news is from scientists at University of Zurich. They've come up with a report that they did some research on spotting of pedestrians on the road and sort of sudden changes on the road, and how they can get cameras to detect that a pedestrian is actually coming to the frame, or that someone's walking across the path of a vehicle. Now, the current technology that they're trying to replace works based on taking screenshots or snapshots at roughly around 50 per minute or 50 per second. And the problem with that is, if something happens in between the snapshots that the camera is taking, then the AI doesn't see it. And because the AI doesn't see it, it's not able to flag the potential danger. So what they've done is they've done some research and found that actually they can get better results by taking fewer screenshots or fewer snapshots, but they needed to combine the fewer snapshots with the training of the AI and another solution that takes almost like a recording of what the camera is seeing. So as the recording is happening, it's then combining it with roughly a reduction from 50 shots per second to somewhere around 20, taking 20 images. And when combined, the results apparently are significantly better. So there's something called smart pixels that technology is what they're combining with the taking of screenshots. So that is quite useful technology and quite a useful solution that will be good to see in terms of safety. It will be useful for self-driving cars, because that's what they need in order to detect any issues that might be about to occur, or about to predict what might be changing on the streets. Next piece of news takes us to Seoul, South Korea. Some major countries around the world gathered together following the AI summit that was held in the UK last year. And what they've agreed to do is to create a network of safety institutes. So these countries will create sort of country-wide institutes, and the aim of those institutes will be to detect, train, and figure out any AI safety issues. And the key thing is that they're able to share information and potentially provide that information to the AI developers. But the UK being the primary pusher of this set of institutes, they kickstarted it off last year and claimed to be the first to have done it. And I think they held quite a successful meeting last year with multiple countries, including China. Incidentally, this list doesn't include China for Seoul's meet, but some countries joined virtually, so perhaps they may have joined that way. But the list of the countries seems to include the top AI, or the top nations in the world. So this next article talks about the hallucinations and tries to explain why hallucinations occur. Now, if I can get this to open, yeah. So I think in order to understand why hallucinations occur, it's probably worth understanding how large language models work. So with large language models, when you send it a question or you start a conversation, it responds based on a balance of probabilities. So it gives you a word and then predicts what the next word would be. And the next word would be the most likely word to occur based on the first word that it's received. So for instance, you might say if you say Humpty, the very likely next word is going to be dumped, Humpty Dumpty. But in some cases, depending on how the LLM has been trained, you may find that it's learned using data where the next word after Humpty was shoe. So if you ask it a question about Humpty, that model would respond with shoe, which is incorrect. And to people using the LLMs, they'll see that as the LLM hallucinating, but the fact is it's responding based on the information that is received. So the key thing about why chatbots sometimes show false information or misleading information all boils down to the fact that it's been trained on data that's not very good, and the best trained LLMs do not hallucinate as much, if at all. And there are other things you can do to reduce the hallucinations. So things around how you prompt the model or the chatbot for information, and then there are techniques that you can use depending on what you're trying to achieve. So there are RAG techniques where you provide extra information and the context within which the response should be generated. So this next article is a good news one. Essentially, a lady has successfully used the OpenAI GPT-4o model to recreate her voice. She lost her voice as a result of a tumor that was removed from her throat, and when the operation concluded, it impacted her voice significantly, and she was a singer. So what they've done is they essentially cloned her voice from a 15-second time capsule thing she did as a teenager. So based on that clone, she's able to then get the LLM to say what she wants. So she types what she wants to say, and then the ChatGPT essentially speaks it to whomever is around listening. So that's a sort of a good news article, and is great for the lady that she's sort of found her voice, and it just represents one of the positive ways that this AI technology can be used and is being used currently. Okay, so that brings us to the final article for this week. This article talks about Inflection AI, and I found it quite interesting that people are out there really trying to get AI to do the key things that will make AI less of a friction for humans. So this article covers a company called Inflection AI, and Inflection AI recently lost their CEO to Microsoft, along with 70 other AI experts. But the people who stayed behind decided to plod along and carry on with the business. And the key thing they want to deliver within AI is an AI that has emotional intelligence. And they want to be able to attach that technology to businesses and what businesses are able to do. Now, I think that's a wonderful thing to be able to carry out if it works and if it's something that the industry wants. The example they give is one of they ask the model to respond or suggest how someone can respond to their friend who just lost a cat, and that cat is a friend's companion. So rather than give a normal sterile response that you get from most models, apparently this one tried to get them to think about how the friend would like to receive the information and to think about the emotional state of the friend. So that is quite interesting. I don't know how this will be used on a wider scale, but if you think about a lot of organizations replacing humans with chatbots, this might come in handy, especially if they don't want their customers to know that it's actually AI that's responding to any of their customer queries and that sort of thing. So I do see how it can be useful, but I wonder if this is something that would succeed just by itself, and would the other big large LLM providers, would they come in and train their bots to have the same emotional intelligence, and suddenly Inflection doesn't survive? But the people involved are very experienced, and this space is to be monitored going forward. So that brings us to the end of this week's Roundup. So we spoke about deepfakes and the threats of deepfakes, to AI helping someone find their voice, and the different organizations that are benefiting from the huge sums of monies that are being raised by different AI organizations. So that's the latest, and I think this covers most of the AI news, or the most important AI news from the last week. So until next week, keep winning.